The story of Russia begins with the emergence of the East Slavic tribes. They inhabited the vast plains of Eastern Europe. In the 9th century, Viking traders and warriors, known as Varangians, arrived in these lands. These Varangians established settlements and trading posts along the rivers. They gradually gained control over the Slavic tribes. In 862 AD, a Varangian chieftain named Rurik established his rule in Novgorod. This is traditionally considered the starting point of Russian statehood. Rurik's successor, Oleg, moved the capital south to Kiev. He united the northern and southern Slavic lands under his rule. This newly formed state became known as Kievan Rus. Kievan Rus flourished as a center of trade and culture. It controlled vital trade routes between Scandinavia and Byzantium. In 988 AD, Prince Vladimir the Great made a momentous decision. He converted to Christianity and adopted it as the official religion of Kievan Rus. This event had a profound impact on Russian culture, identity, and its future. Kievan Rus faced numerous external threats. Among them were nomadic tribes from the east. These tribes posed a constant challenge to its stability. In the 13th century, a new and formidable force emerged from the steppes of Central Asia, the Mongols. Led by Genghis Khan and his successors, the Mongols conquered vast swaths of Eurasia. Their empire stretched from China to Eastern Europe. In the mid-13th century, the Mongols, under the leadership of Batu Khan, invaded Kievan Rus. They subjected the Russian principalities to their rule. This period became known as the Mongol Yoke. The Mongol rule had a significant impact on Russian society and politics. The Mongols demanded tribute and loyalty from the Russian princes. They often intervened in Russian affairs to maintain their control. The Mongol invasion led to the decline of Kiev as the political and cultural center of the Russian lands. As Kievan Rus declined, new centers of power emerged. Among them was the Principality of Moscow, located in northeastern Rus. Moscow's rise was due to a combination of factors. Its strategic location at the confluence of several rivers made it a hub for trade. The princes of Moscow skillfully navigated the complex web of Mongol politics. They gained favor with the Mongol Khans. Under Ivan I, who ruled from 1325 to 1340, Moscow became the center of the Orthodox Church. This further enhanced its prestige and influence. Ivan's successors continued to expand Moscow's territory. They gradually consolidated their power over neighboring principalities. In 1480, Ivan III, known as Ivan the Great, took a decisive step. He refused to pay tribute to the Mongols. This act marked the end of the Mongol Yoke. It established Moscow as the dominant power in the Russian lands. Ivan III adopted the title of Tsar, derived from the Roman Caesar, signifying his ambition to create a powerful and independent Russian state. Ivan IV, who ruled from 1533 to 1584, was the grandson of Ivan the Great and became known as Ivan the Terrible. He was a complex and controversial figure. He was a ruthless tyrant who left a lasting mark on Russian history. Ivan IV continued the expansionist policies of his predecessors. He conquered the Kazan and Astrakhan Khanates. This secured Russia's control over the Volga River and opened the way for expansion into Siberia. Ivan IV implemented a series of reforms to centralize power and strengthen the Tsar's authority. He established a new service nobility known as oprichnina to counter the influence of the old boyar aristocracy. His reign was also marked by periods of extreme brutality and terror. Suspecting treachery and conspiracies, Ivan unleashed a reign of terror against his own people. Ivan IV's legacy is complex and contested. He is remembered as a ruthless tyrant but also as a visionary ruler who expanded Russia's borders and transformed it into a major Eurasian power. His reign left a lasting impact on Russian political culture. It reinforced the autocratic tendencies of the Russian monarchy. Section 5. A New Window to the West. Peter the Great's Reforms. In the late 17th century, Russia underwent a period of profound transformation under the rule of Peter the Great, who reigned from 1682 to 1725. Peter was a visionary ruler who recognized that Russia had fallen behind Western Europe in terms of technology, military power, and administrative efficiency. Determined to modernize his country, Peter embarked on a series of ambitious reforms that touched upon every aspect of Russian life. He traveled extensively in Western Europe, studying shipbuilding, navigation and other crafts. He invited foreign experts to Russia to share their knowledge. Peter's reforms had a profound impact on Russian society and culture. He introduced Western fashions and customs, encouraging the nobility to shave their beards and wear European clothing. He established the first Russian newspaper and founded the Academy of Sciences, promoting education and scientific inquiry. Peter's most enduring legacy was the founding of St. Petersburg in 1703. Section 6. Imperial Grandeur, Catherine the Great, and Expansion. Following Peter the Great's death in 1725, Russia experienced a period of political instability and palace coup. It was not until the reign of Catherine II, from 1762 to 1796, known as Catherine the Great, that Russia regained its momentum as a major European power. Catherine, a German princess by birth, came to the Russian throne after the overthrow of her husband, Peter III. She proved to be a shrewd and ambitious ruler. She continued Peter the Great's policies of modernization and expansion. Catherine's reign was marked by significant territorial gains for Russia. She successfully waged war against the Ottoman Empire, securing access to the Black Sea and annexing Crimea. In the west, she participated in the partitions of Poland, expanding Russia's borders further into Europe. Catherine also implemented a number of important domestic reforms. She reorganized local government, expanded education, and promoted economic development. Her reign is often considered the golden age of the Russian Empire. Section 7. The Seeds of Revolution, Unrest in Tsarist Russia. While the 18th century was a time of imperial grandeur and expansion for Russia, the seeds of revolution were already being sown. The vast majority of Russians, mostly peasants living in poverty and oppression, did not share in the prosperity of the elite. Social and economic inequalities widened, creating resentment and unrest. The reign of Nicholas I from 1825 to 1855 was marked by repression and a crackdown on dissent. The Crimean War, from 1853 to 1856, a humiliating defeat for Russia at the hands of Britain, France, and the Ottoman Empire, exposed the weaknesses of the Tsarist regime. The war revealed the technological backwardness of the Russian army and the inefficiency of its bureaucracy. Following the Crimean War, Alexander II, who reigned from 1855 to 1881, implemented a series of reforms, most notably the emancipation of the serfs in 1861. However, these reforms proved insufficient to address the deep-seated problems plaguing Russian society. Section 8. The Soviet Experiment, From Revolution to Superpower. The early 20th century was a time of immense upheaval for Russia. The Russo-Japanese War from 1904 to 1905, another humiliating defeat for Russia, further weakened the Tsarist regime and fueled popular discontent. The Revolution of 1905, sparked by a massacre of peaceful demonstrators in St. Petersburg, forced Tsar Nicholas II to make concessions. He agreed to establish a parliament, or Duma, and grant some civil liberties. However, these reforms proved too limited and came too late to appease the growing revolutionary movement. World War I proved to be the final nail in the coffin of the Tsarist regime. The war exacerbated the already dire economic situation in Russia and led to widespread shortages of food and fuel. In February 1917, a revolution broke out in Petrograd, formerly St. Petersburg, the capital of Russia. Nicholas II abdicated, and a provisional government was established. However, the provisional government proved unable to restore order or end the war. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks, a radical socialist party led by Vladimir Lenin, seized power in a coup d'état. The Bolsheviks promised peace, land, and bread to the war-weary and impoverished Russian people. They signed a peace treaty with Germany, withdrew Russia from World War I, and nationalized land and industry. The Bolshevik Revolution marked the beginning of the Soviet experiment, a bold and ultimately tragic attempt to create a socialist utopia. Section 9. The Fall of the Hammer, Dissolution and Transition. The Soviet Union emerged from the ashes of the Russian Empire as a global superpower. It played a decisive role in the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. However, the Soviet experiment came at a high price. Millions of people perished during the collectivization of agriculture, the purges of the Stalinist era, and the Gulag system of forced labor camps. After Stalin's death in 1953, his successors attempted to reform the Soviet system. They sought to improve living standards and reduce the level of repression. However, the Soviet Union remained a one-party state with a rigid, centrally planned economy. By the 1980s, the Soviet system was in a state of stagnation and decline. Mikhail Gorbachev, who came to power in 1985, attempted to revitalize the Soviet Union with his policies of perestroika, or restructuring, and glasnost, or openness. However, Gorbachev's reforms unleashed forces that he could not control. Nationalist movements gained momentum in the Soviet republics, and economic problems worsened. In 1991, a coup d'état by hardline communists against Gorbachev failed. This event precipitated the collapse of the Soviet Union. On December 25, 1991, the Soviet flag was lowered over the Kremlin for the last time. Russia and the other Soviet republics became independent states. Section 10. Russia Today, A New Millennium, New Challenges. The collapse of the Soviet Union marked the end of an era. It ushered in a period of profound change and uncertainty for Russia. The 1990s were a time of economic hardship, political turmoil, and social upheaval. The transition from a centrally planned economy to a market-based system proved to be painful for many Russians. The old certainties of the Soviet era were gone, replaced by new opportunities and challenges. Under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, who came to power in 1999, Russia has reasserted itself as a major player on the world stage. Putin has presided over an era of economic growth and stability. He has sought to restore Russia's influence in its near abroad and to challenge what he sees as Western hegemony in global affairs. Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and its military intervention in Syria in 2015 have heightened tensions with the West. Russia today is a country in transition, grappling with its complex past and seeking to define its place in a rapidly changing world. It remains to be seen what the future holds for this vast and enigmatic nation.